Alexander Campbell stares at the medical holodisplay, his weathered hands adjusting the interface as he studies the unfamiliar nerve architecture of his newest patient. The challenge before him could revolutionize human-NASAT relations or end his career in spectacular fashion. Through the observation window of his office at the NASAT Human Medical Exchange Facility, he watches young Rhea curl into a protective ball, a motion that highlights the empty space where the child's middle pair of legs should be. The message had arrived during the facility's night cycle, a desperate request from one of Nasatia Prime's wealthiest merchant families. Their child, born without his central legs, needed help that no NASAT physician could provide. The irony isn't lost on Campbell that these insectoid aliens, masters of biotechnology, would turn to human medicine as a last resort. The NASAT dominate this sector of space, their achievements in biological engineering unmatched. Yet their rigid social structure leaves little room for those who deviate from the norm. Campbell observes as Rhea attempts to roll the species' primary form of locomotion, only to list sideways and collapse. The other NASAT children had nicknamed him the Crawler. 5 years ago, when humans established this medical facility as part of the technology exchange program, many questioned the value of bringing primitive human medicine to such an advanced civilization. Now, Campbell sees an opportunity to prove humanity's worth. If he can successfully create prosthetic legs for Rhea, it would demonstrate that human innovation can match NASAT biotech in unexpected ways. The scanning data presents a daunting puzzle. NASAT nerve clusters operate on principles that defy traditional human prosthetic interfaces. Campbell's fingers move across the holodisplay, adjusting the prototype design. One wrong connection could permanently damage Rhea's remaining legs. The neural mapping alone requires him to develop entirely new prosthetic techniques. Despite the risks, Campbell finds himself drawn to the determination in young Rhea's compound eyes. The child has spent 8 years measured in human standards facing isolation and ridicule, yet maintains a fierce desire to walk properly. His wealthy parents stand in the corner of the medical bay, their antennae twitching with barely concealed anxiety. They've exhausted every option in NASAT medicine, crossing cultural boundaries to seek help from humans, a decision that likely cost them social standing among their peers. Campbell saves his preliminary prosthetic designs and walks to the observation window. Success could open doors for expanded human presence in NASAT space, while failure might damage the delicate diplomatic relations between their species. More importantly, it could either give a young child the ability to walk normally for the first time or leave him worse off than before. The choice weighs heavy on his shoulders as he presses his palm against the window. Beyond it, Rhea uncurls slightly, all 4 existing legs splaying out as he attempts once again to achieve the rolling motion that comes naturally to his species. The sight cements Campbell's decision he will proceed with the experimental treatment, regardless of the risks to his career or human NASAT relations. Some chances are worth taking. Campbell's palm left a faint mark on the observation window as he pulled away. The sight of Rhea's continued attempts to roll had crystallized his decision. He reached for his comm unit and placed a call to an old colleague. "James, it's Alex Campbell. I need your expertise on a unique case." "Doctor." James Turner arrived 3 days later, his angular frame and silver-streaked hair a stark contrast to the smooth, curved architecture of the NASAT medical facility. He studied the neural scans with practiced efficiency, his weathered fingers tracing the alien nerve patterns displayed in the holofield. "Fascinating architecture," Turner murmured, adjusting the display's resolution. "These cluster formations, they're unlike anything in human neurophysiology." The 2 doctors worked through countless cycles, their research punctuated by the soft hum of diagnostic equipment and the occasional chittering of passing NASAT medical staff. Campbell noticed how the local physicians kept their distance, antennae twitching whenever they glanced toward the human doctor's workstation. The breakthrough came during their third week of research. Campbell sat bolt upright in his chair, scattering data pads across his desk. "James, look at this frequency response pattern." Turner leaned in, eyes widening as he absorbed the data. "The nerve clusters. They're resonating with specific electromagnetic frequencies." "Exactly. If we integrate microemitters into the prosthetic design, we could create a direct neural interface without risking damage to the existing leg structures." They incorporated lightweight alloys from Mars Colonial Engineering, materials designed to withstand the harsh Martian environment while maintaining precise motor control. The prototype took shape sleek, efficient, and unlike anything either species had created before. During the development process, Campbell spent hours with Rhea, observing the young Nasat's movements and listening to his stories. The child shuffled awkwardly across the medical bay floor, his four existing legs straining to compensate for the missing pair. "The other children," Rhea clicked softly one day, his compound eyes fixed on a technical diagram of the prosthetics. "They say I move like a ground-dwelling insect. But humans built cities on Mars, how did you do it?" Campbell explained the principles of human engineering, watching Rhea's antennae twitch with interest at each new detail. The child's fascination with human technology provided a sharp contrast to his parents' rigid posture whenever they visited, their antennae held stiffly vertical in a display of barely concealed discomfort. The day of the initial fitting arrived. Campbell had reinforced the medical bay with impact-resistant materials, transforming it into a controlled testing environment. Rhea lay on the examination platform, his carapace gleaming under the medical lights as Campbell carefully aligned the prosthetics with his nerve clusters. Neural interface activating in 3, 2, 1. Turner's fingers moved across the control panel. The prosthetic legs twitched, then moved in perfect synchronization with Rhea's natural limbs. A soft gasp escaped the young Nasset's breathing spiracles. "Can you feel them?" Campbell asked, monitoring the neural feedback. "Yes," Rhea clicked, "but I don't know how to use them." The realization hit Campbell as he watched Rhea struggle to coordinate 6 legs instead of 4. The prosthetics worked perfectly, but Rhea had never developed the neural pathways for proper Nasset locomotion. The sound of the medical bay door sliding open interrupted their first attempt at movement training. Senior Medical Administrator Crix Tan entered, his imposing form casting a shadow across the floor. His antennae swept backward, a clear sign of disapproval. "Dr. Campbell," Crix Tan's mandibles clicked sharply, "the Council has expressed concerns about this experimental procedure." He moved closer, examining the prosthetics with critical compound eyes. "Using human technology on a Nasat child carries significant implications for our species' dignity." Campbell opened his mouth to respond, but a movement caught his attention. Despite Crix Tan's presence, Rhea had begun another attempt to coordinate his new legs, the prosthetics moving in halting synchronization with his natural limbs. Campbell watched Rhea's determined attempts with the new legs, then turned to face Crix Tan. "With respect, Administrator, dignity comes from independence. These prosthetics offer Rhea that chance." The Administrator's antennae twitched, but before he could respond, Campbell activated his datapad. "I'd like to introduce you to our rehabilitation program." He brought up a holographic display of the converted storage facility down the hall. "We've created a controlled environment specifically designed for safe practice and monitoring." Over the next days, the storage room transformed into a specialized training center. Mark Johnson arrived from Earth, bringing his expertise in adaptive movement therapy. The human specialist studied Rhea's attempts at coordination with keen eyes as they installed the padded walls and adjustable slope systems. "Notice how he compensates by shifting his weight forward," Johnson pointed out during their first session. We can work with that natural instinct. The breakthrough came during their third day of practice. Rhea stood in the center of the facility, all 6 legs planted firmly on the ground, when a muscle spasm shot through his natural legs. The prosthetics twitched erratically, sending him tumbling sideways. Neural feedback loop, Turner called out, fingers flying across his diagnostic panel. The interface sensitivity is too high. Campbell spent the next 3 days in his lab with Turner, adjusting microscopic settings in the prosthetics control systems. They reduced the neural sensitivity by precise increments, testing each adjustment with detailed simulations. The monitoring devices installed by Crix Tan hummed constantly in the background. Dr. Zix Ven's presence added another layer of pressure, his compound eyes tracking every movement as he recorded data on NASAT biotechnology standards. During one particularly frustrating session, Campbell noticed something unexpected. While Rhea waited for the next exercise to begin, he rocked back and forth in a gentle motion, a common self-soothing behavior among young NASAT. Try following that rhythm, Campbell suggested, adjusting the prosthetics micro-emitters to match the natural swaying. Let the new legs move with your body's own pattern. Johnson developed a lightweight harness system, attaching it to guide rails in the ceiling. The support allowed Rhea to attempt more ambitious movements without risking injury. Data streamed from sensors in the harness, providing detailed analysis of each attempt at rolling. Look at these motion graphs, Turner said, displaying a series of wave patterns. The prosthetic legs are finally syncing with his natural movement cycles. Rhea's parents began attending every session, their initial rigid posture gradually relaxing as they watched their child progress. Other NASAT families gathered outside the facility's viewing windows, their presence drawing more attention than Campbell had anticipated. The first successful roll brought a clicking sound of joy from Rhea's breathing spiracles. He managed 3 complete rotations before stopping, his compound eyes bright with achievement. However, during the post-session diagnostics, Campbell noticed a critical reading on his instruments. The prosthetics power cells showed significant depletion, far more than their calculations had predicted. He ran the numbers again, his stomach tightening at the implications. The energy consumption is unsustainable, he told Turner in their lab that evening. At this rate, the power cells won't last through a standard NASAT active period. Crix Tan seized upon this detail during his next inspection. The Council requires evidence of practical, long-term viability, he clicked, mandibles moving in sharp gestures. I am scheduling a review meeting for next week. Without a solution to this power supply issue, the project cannot continue. Campbell looked through the observation window where Rhea practiced with Johnson, the prosthetic legs moving in smooth coordination with his natural limbs. The power cell's charge indicator blinked in warning, counting down the minutes until they would need recharging. Campbell pulled up the latest power cell diagnostics on his datapad, the harsh numbers confirming his fears. He turned to Turner, who already had his comm unit in hand. I know someone who might help, Turner said, fingers flying across the device. Marcus Wung, from the Lunar Engineering Corps. He's been working on miniaturized fusion cells for Mars colonist exoskeletons. Within hours, Dr. Wung's angular features appeared on their view screen. His eyes widened as Campbell explained the situation, then narrowed in concentration as he studied the technical specifications. The power draw is similar to our early exoskeleton prototypes, Wung noted. I can be there in 3 days with the latest fusion cell designs. While they awaited Wung's arrival, Mark Johnson continued working with Rhea in the training facility. Campbell observed through the monitoring window as Rhea executed a particularly smooth turn. Notice the muscle response patterns, Johnson said, pointing to his display. The neural interface is triggering adaptive changes in his remaining leg muscles. The precision is unprecedented. Dr. Harold Pierce arrived unannounced that afternoon, drawn by Johnson's preliminary data. The xenobiologist's weathered face creased with interest as he reviewed the muscle adaptation charts. "This could revolutionize our understanding of nascent physiology," Pierce said. "The neuroplasticity implications alone." Wang's integration into the team proved seamless. He spent hours studying nascent biological samples, his workspace cluttered with both human and alien technology. On his fourth day, he burst into Campbell's office, holding up a hybrid power cell prototype. "Their energy storage mechanisms are brilliant," Wang explained, placing the device on Campbell's desk. "By combining nascent organic transfer principles with our fusion technology, we've tripled the operational duration." Before they could proceed with installation, Administrator Crix Tan appeared with a lengthy list of required safety protocols. Campbell countered by uploading decades of human colony safety data directly to the administrator's console. "These systems have operated without incident in environments far more hostile than this facility," Campbell said, highlighting key statistics. Crix Tan's antennae twitched as he processed the information. "Dr. Zix Ven will oversee the installation," he clicked finally. The integration of the new power cells revealed an unexpected benefit. During calibration, Turner noticed the energy signature's resemblance to natural nascent bioelectric fields. "The interface is adapting to the harmonics," he explained, adjusting the displays. "Response time has improved by 37%. Rhea demonstrated the enhancement the next morning, rolling smoothly down the main corridor. His movement caught the attention of passing nascent medical staff, who paused to watch. Their antennae wiggled with increasing interest as Rhea maintained his motion for hour after hour. Richard Evans, the human diplomatic liaison, recorded every moment. "This could change everything," he said quietly to Campbell. "Both species need to see this." A commotion outside drew their attention. A group of young nascents pressed against the facility's windows, their clicking voices carrying through the barriers. Campbell recognized several of Rhea's classmates among them. "They want to see him roll," Johnson translated, his expression concerned. "This could be complicated." Before Campbell could respond, Administrator Crix Tan's voice echoed through the corridor. "The medical council requires a formal evaluation," he announced, his mandibles clicking precisely. 7 days from now, the child must demonstrate full social integration capabilities. Campbell watched Rhea absorb this news, the young nascent's antennae drawing close to his carapace. Wang was already adjusting power flow calculations, while Johnson pulled up advanced maneuvering protocols on his display. "We'll need to modify the training programs," Johnson said, his fingers moving across the controls. "Traditional nascent social patterns require complex spatial awareness." Rhea moved to the center of the corridor, all 6 legs settling into position. The hybrid power cells hummed at optimal frequency as he began his practice routine, each movement more precise than the last. Campbell activated his datapad, bringing up the latest training schedules Johnson had developed. "We'll need to push harder," Johnson said, gesturing to the empty storage rooms adjacent to their current facility. "I can set up progressive obstacle courses through these spaces." Within hours, the additional rooms transformed into a comprehensive training ground. Johnson installed graduated inclines, textured floor panels, and narrow passages that simulated real-world nascent environments. Rhea navigated each new challenge, the hybrid power cells humming steadily as he practiced rolling transitions from smooth surfaces to rough terrain. Dr. Wang hunched over his workbench, surrounded by power cell components and diagnostic equipment. "Look at these readings," he called to Turner. "We can implement a backup reservoir here." His fingers traced a schematic on the screen. "An automatic switchover when primary power drops below critical levels." The modification added minimal weight but provided a crucial safety margin an extra hour of operational time. Turner integrated the backup system, while Campbell monitored Rhea's neural responses to the altered power flow. A shadow fell across the diagnostic panel. Administrator Crix Tan stood in the doorway, accompanied by several distinguished-looking NASATs. Dr. Vex Nar of the Scientific Academy has expressed interest in our project, Crix Tan clicked, his antennae twitching with barely concealed tension. Dr. Vex Nar moved forward, compound eyes focusing on Rhea's prosthetic legs. The renowned biotechnology researcher's presence drew a crowd of medical staff to the observation windows. Campbell quickly implemented access restrictions, sealing off non-essential corridors to maintain Rhea's training environment. The crash came 3 days before evaluation. A high-pitched whine preceded the servo failure. Rhea spun out of control, the safety harness straining as he impacted the padded wall. The sound of scraping metal filled the room. "Neural interface stable," Turner called out, fingers flying across his console. "Minimal feedback surge." Campbell reached Rhea first, scanning for injuries while Johnson lowered the harness. The young NASAT's carapace showed only minor scuff marks, but the failed prosthetic leg hung limply, its servo mechanism fused. "Dr. Campbell." A deep voice cut through the chaos. Colonel Marcus Sterling stood in the doorway, his military uniform stark against the medical white walls. "My fabrication facilities are at your disposal." He stepped forward, examining the damaged servo. "We can manufacture replacement parts within 24 hours. Campbell and Turner worked through the night in Sterling's military engineering lab, redesigning the servo assembly. They integrated redundant safety systems, testing each component under extreme stress conditions before assembly. The new parts arrived as promised. Turner installed them while Campbell adjusted the neural interface calibration. The diagnostic screen displayed an unexpected pattern. "These neural pathways," Campbell said, enlarging the display, "they're entirely new formations." Turner leaned in, studying the data. The interface is causing adaptive changes in his nervous system. He's developing specialized neural structures for prosthetic control. They worked through the final day of preparation, fine-tuning response times and power distribution. Rhea rolled through increasingly complex maneuvers, his movement patterns approaching natural NASAT fluidity. The monitoring systems showed 90% compatibility with standard mobility benchmarks. "The evaluation parameters have been updated," Crix Tan announced during his evening inspection. "Emergency, defensive rolling techniques must be demonstrated." Campbell accessed his database, pulling up Rhea's latest performance metrics. His current capabilities exceed age-appropriate mobility requirements by 12%. He transmitted the data directly to Crix Tan's console. The original evaluation criteria stand. As night fell, Campbell conducted final system checks. Security feeds showed crowds gathering outside, hundreds of NASATs pressing against the perimeter barriers. Many carried children with missing or malformed limbs. The evaluation committee members arrived one by one. Dr. James Morrison, his white hair gleaming under the medical bay lights, examined the neural interface designs with professional interest. The human xenological medicine expert's presence added another layer of scrutiny to tomorrow's demonstration. Campbell watched Rhea power down his prosthetics for the night, the backup power cells cycling to standby mode. In 12 hours, everything would change, not just for one young NASAT, but potentially for countless others. The weight of that knowledge pressed against his chest as he made his final notations in the medical log. Dawn broke over the medical facility as Campbell reviewed his final notations. The main demonstration hall had transformed overnight into a comprehensive testing arena, with varied terrain surfaces stretching across the polished floor. Johnson directed the placement of the last climbing panel while consulting his datapad. "Neural interface readings are optimal," Turner announced from his monitoring station. Power cells at full charge, backup systems green across the board. Rhea rolled into position near the arena entrance. His prosthetic legs moved with fluid precision during Johnson's warm-up sequence. Each motion generated quiet hums as servos engaged and disengaged. The observation area filled steadily. Dr. Morrison settled into his seat, datapad balanced on one knee. Doctor. Vex Nar's antennae twitched as she examined the course layout, her compound eyes reflecting the overhead lights. Administrator Crix Tan positioned himself at the center of the evaluation panel, mandibles clicking rapidly as he conferred with his staff. Security feeds displayed on Campbell's monitor showed the growing crowd outside. Nasat families pressed against the perimeter barriers, their children perched on carapaces for better views. Many of the young ones exhibited missing or malformed limbs. Basic mobility assessment commencing, Johnson announced, activating the course's first segment. Rhea initiated his roll, accelerating smoothly across the test surface. His speed matched the baseline data scrolling across Turner's display velocity and coordination, perfectly aligned with unimpaired Nasat parameters. Power consumption nominal, Wang reported, eyes fixed on his monitoring equipment. Hybrid cells maintaining optimal distribution patterns. The advanced maneuvering phase triggered warning indicators as Rhea executed high-speed turns. Servo strain gauges flashed yellow, but the redundant safety systems held. Campbell watched Rhea adjust his technique mid-roll, compensating for the increased mechanical stress. Dr. Vex Nar leaned forward, antennae extending toward the display screens. Note the adaptation sequence, she clicked to her colleagues. The neural response patterns exceed expected parameters. Administrator Crix Tan's mandibles snapped sharply. Add the vertical climbing elements, he ordered. Now. That wasn't part of the approved protocol, Campbell protested, stepping forward. The course hasn't been properly calibrated for Rhea's clicking interrupted him. The young Nasat had already positioned himself at the base of the climbing wall, prosthetic legs settling into their initial grip points. Turner's monitors lit up with new data as Rhea began his ascent. These neural pathways, they're completely novel formations, he said, enlarging the display. His nervous system is generating specialized climbing circuits in real time. Halfway up the wall, Rhea's third prosthetic leg slipped. The backup power system engaged instantly, surging additional energy to the stability controls. Wang's hybrid cells pulsed with increased output as Rhea regained his purchase and continued upward. Dr. Morrison scribbled rapid notes while Colonel Sterling observed from the back of the room. The recovery capabilities alone justify expanded development, Sterling muttered, already reaching for his comm unit. Multiple Nasat families pushed through the security cordon as the demonstration concluded, their clicks and whistles filling the hall. Dr. Vex Nar moved to address them, but Administrator Crix Tan intercepted her. Extended stress testing protocols must be established, he clicked firmly. The durability of human components remains unproven in Nasat applications. Wang's voice cut through the growing debate. Campbell, you need to see this. He adjusted his scanner, revealing crystalline formations growing within the power cell matrix. The hybrid technology is adapting at a molecular level, integrating aspects of Nasat biological energy systems. The discovery drew Dr. Vex Nar's immediate attention. She crossed to Wang's station, compound eyes fixed on the scanning display. Her antennae vibrated with increasing intensity as she processed the implications. A priority message from the Science Academy flashed across Campbell's datapad. The sender's credentials identified them as the Advanced Medical Integration Division. Before he could open it, Administrator Crix Tan's authorization codes locked down the communication channel. All external research proposals must undergo standard regulatory review, Crix Tan announced. Current protocols require, the scanner's alert tone interrupted him. Wang adjusted the magnification, revealing new crystal formations spreading through the power distribution network. The hybrid cells hummed at a frequency that made nearby NASA antennae twitch in response. Dr. Vex Nar's antennae quivered as she processed the scanner data. These formations, she clicked, mandibles moving in precise patterns. They exhibit characteristics of both technological and biological integration matrices. The observation triggered an immediate response from the Science Academy's monitoring systems. Within minutes, the facility's communication panels lit up with priority notifications. Grand Medical Director Tix Cor's credentials flashed across the main screen as he initiated a direct connection. Proceed with full spectrum analysis. His deep clicks resonated through the speakers. I am convening an emergency session of the Governing Council. Administrator Crick's Tan's carapace shifted colors slightly, his attempts to maintain control of the situation crumbling as Tix Cor's authority superseded his own. Campbell noticed Mark Johnson's wife, Dr. Sarah Johnson, slip quietly into the lab. Her xenobiology credentials had granted her immediate access when the crystalline anomalies were detected. Sarah moved to the scanning station, her eyes narrowing as she studied the data streams. The structures are creating neural bridges, she said, adjusting the resolution. Not just interfaces, actual biological integration points. Wang transferred his readings to the main display. The crystals pulsed with energy patterns that matched Ria's natural nervous system frequencies. Each pulse generated microadjustments in the prosthetic responses, bringing them closer to organic movement patterns. Director, 3 families have submitted formal treatment requests, Colonel Sterling announced, holding up his datapad. The screen displayed medical files of young NASATs with mobility impairments. Administrator Crick's Tan clicked rapidly. New safety protocols must be established. The regulatory framework requires. Your objections are noted and overruled. Tix Cor's voice cut through the room. The Grand Medical Director's image materialized on the main screen, his dark carapace marked with the distinctive patterns of his high office. A full review of your project oversight begins immediately. Major David Cooper entered the facility, his military medical insignia catching the light. He moved directly to Sterling's position, already accessing facility schematics on his tablet. The eastern wing could accommodate additional treatment bays, he said, highlighting sections of the blueprint. Sarah's voice drew their attention back to the scanning station. The crystalline structures are improving energy transfer efficiency, she announced. These readings exceed both human and NASA baseline technology parameters. Administrator Crick's Tan's last-ditch effort came in the form of an extreme stress test demand. Ria rolled into position as the testing equipment powered up. The prosthetics hummed, crystalline structures glowing faintly under the diagnostic lights. Power output at 120% of projected maximum, Wang called out. Stability maintained. Dr. Vex Nar transmitted the results directly to the Science Academy. These performance metrics validate immediate program expansion, she clicked, her antennae signaling triumph. The facility's main doors opened, admitting Thomas Maxwell from the Human Medical Exchange Board. The veteran administrator surveyed the scene, his eyes taking in the growing crowd of NASA medical staff gathered around the monitoring stations. The Exchange Board is prepared to support multiple treatment centers, Maxwell announced, moving to join Campbell's team. We've identified suitable locations across 3 NASA population centers. Grand Medical Director Tix Cor's next transmission silenced all conversation. Administrator Crick's Tan, you are relieved of project oversight effective immediately. His compound eyes turned to Dr. Vex Nar. You will assume leadership of all human NASA medical cooperation initiatives. The crystals in Ria's prosthetics continued their steady expansion through the neural interface system. Sarah adjusted her scanning equipment, tracking their progress. The integration pattern is self-optimizing, she observed. Each new formation improves upon the previous structure's efficiency. Traditional NASAT medical practitioners began gathering in the corridor outside, their clicking filled with concerned undertones. Campbell noticed several of them transmitting to contacts within the conservative medical establishment. Wang's monitoring equipment registered another surge in crystal formation activity. The structures pulsed with new energy patterns, their complexity increasing beyond the original design parameters. Campbell exchanged glances with Sarah, both recognizing the implications of this accelerating development. Dr. Vex Nar moved to address the growing crowd of medical staff, her new authority evident in her bearing. The future of human NASAT medical cooperation hung on what would happen next, as centuries of traditional medical practices collided with unprecedented technological integration. The crystalline formations stabilized over the following weeks, their growth patterns settling into optimal configurations. Campbell tracked the progress through daily scans, each reading confirming the unprecedented fusion of human technology with NASAT biology. Dr. Wang's monitoring equipment registered perfect synchronization between Ria's neural patterns and the prosthetic interface. 30 days after Dr. Vex Nar's appointment, Campbell stood in the newly completed Joint Species Medical Center. Sunlight streamed through the vast windows, illuminating the demonstration arena where Ria practiced with Wang and Turner. The prosthetic legs moved in perfect harmony, each motion indistinguishable from natural NASAT locomotion. Power efficiency has reached theoretical maximum, Wang announced, eyes fixed on his scanner. The backup system is drawing zero current. The crystals have created a completely self-sustaining energy network. Turner adjusted his monitoring equipment. Neural response times exceed baseline parameters by 12%. The interface is operating at full integration. The demonstration hall filled steadily. Medical professionals from both species filed into their seats, over 500 observers according to the security count. Sarah Johnson directed the final equipment checks while Mark positioned recording devices throughout the arena. 5 young NASATs rolled into position beside Ria. Their carapaces gleamed under the lights as they arranged themselves in formation. Grand Medical Director Tix Core observed from his elevated platform, compound eyes tracking every movement. The synchronized demonstration began. Ria matched his companion's movements precisely, his prosthetic legs carrying him through complex rolling patterns. His speed and agility drew clicks of amazement from the audience as he executed maneuvers that Administrator Crix Tan had deemed impossible for artificial limbs. Near the arena's edge, a young NASAT named Kexpor miscalculated his approach to a raised platform. His leading edge caught the lip, throwing him off balance. Before he could fall, Ria surged forward, his prosthetic legs extended with impossible speed, bracing Kexpor's carapace and stabilizing his roll. Dr. Vex Nar's antennae vibrated intensely. Response time, 0.3 seconds, she clicked rapidly into her recorder. 40% faster than natural NASAT reflexes. Grand Medical Director Tix Core rose from his seat. The audience fell silent as he approached the podium. His dark carapace caught the light as he activated the sound system. Today marks the official integration of human prosthetic technology into NASAT medicine, he announced, his clicks echoing through the hall. Dr. Campbell approached the stage. Campbell walked forward as Tix Core produced a crystalline medallion, the Order of Medical Excellence. The highest honor in NASAT medicine caught the light as it was placed around his neck. Movement at the hall's entrance drew attention. 20 young NASATs rolled forward with their families, each child bearing mobility impairments. Dr. Vex Nar's medical staff guided them to a designated waiting area as Director Maxwell from the Human Medical Exchange Board took the podium. The crystalline interface technology will be adapted for human medical applications, Maxwell announced. Initial trials begin next month at trauma centers on Earth and Mars. Colonel Sterling stepped forward. Both species' military medical divisions will share research facilities and personnel, ensuring continued advancement of hybrid medical technologies. After the ceremony, Campbell noticed movement near the back of the hall. Rhea's parents approached slowly, their carapaces showing subtle color shifts indicating emotional intensity. His father's antennae drooped slightly as he spoke. "We were wrong to doubt human medicine," he clicked softly. "Our foundation will support disabled children seeking prosthetic treatment. No child should face isolation as Rhea did." Near the exit, Administrator Crixtan watched the proceedings. He approached Rhea after the crowd thinned, mandibles moving hesitantly. "Would you demonstrate a simple roll sequence?" he asked, his clicking subdued. Rhea executed a perfect series of movements. Crixtan observed in silence before departing without comment, his rigid posture slightly softened. Wang's monitoring equipment continued to track the crystal formations, recording their stable energy patterns as they powered Rhea's seamlessly integrated prosthetics. The data streams showed perfect synchronization between artificial and biological systems, each movement as natural as any born to a NASAT child. Human Security Corps medics entered the facility, consulting with Dr. Vex Nar's staff about upcoming trials. Their presence marked the beginning of expanded cooperation between the species' medical communities. Campbell watched them coordinate with NASA technicians, establishing protocols for the next phase of hybrid technology development. Sarah Johnson's scanner beeped, drawing attention to new crystal formation patterns. The structures had achieved another level of refinement, their energy efficiency exceeding all previous measurements. She adjusted her equipment to capture detailed readings of the evolved interface system.